guide, we will follow.
Hello and welcome to Trinity Talk Live, water cooler conversation from a Christian perspective. I am Ken Coughlin. We hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to the end of November. It's Advent's coming. Pastor Jay, are you done yet with your? I love throwing this.
Not with the study. No, we've still got one more week, I believe. So.
One more week.
Yeah.
So can people still join up at the last minute if they want?
Absolutely. There's always time, always room. We'll get you caught up pretty quickly. No problem.
He's been teaching a Preparing for Advent Bible study here at Trinity.
It's been going great.
Tuesday nights, right?
Yep, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, been going great. Yep, thanks for all the participation. It's been big. I mean, it's really been great to get to know everyone from that standpoint. So it's been good.
So anyway, what we're here to talk about today, we've been talking in the previous episodes in here in November, we've been focusing on stewardship. We're kind of taking a step backwards, I guess you could say, because technically October was our discipleship month. We were focusing on our discipleship team. But Pastor Jay and I were talking a little bit, and we went up to the convocation back in October.
What is a convocation?
Same thing as a convention, just spelled differently.
Okay.
So
for those at home who may not want to,
exactly.
may want to know what a convocation is. It's a big fancy word for a church meeting.
Basically, yeah.
So okay.
Did you ever see that meme that was circulating? I think it was on the NALC Clergy Connect.
I don't watch memes.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
You post memes. There was a meme about something about this little kid sitting on Santa's lap about. The little girl, what do you want for Christmas this year? And the girl says, I want a dragon. And Santa says, come on, you want to be realistic. And he says, okay, I want my church meetings to be over in an hour. And he says, okay, what color do you want your dragon to be?
Exactly. Some things, yes.
I'm not saying the convocation was long.
No.
I'm just going to leave it there. So anyway, we went up to this NALC mission district, Atlanta Mission District.
Which we're hosting next year.
Which we're hosting next year.
Correct, in October.
Really exciting.
Yes.
This is not just like fake Ken. I'm really actually genuinely excited about that. Anyway, but one of the things, it got me thinking, it got us talking a little bit about one of the focuses of the NALC, and it is on discipleship. And so we said, hey, how about we do a little episode on that? But before we get into that, because a lot of people watching this may be wondering, what the heck is the NALC? What are they even talking about?
Or who is this guy next to you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, by the way, here's my guest for the day. Who are you?
I'm Jay. Nice to see you.
You've been on literally all month. If people don't know who you are by now, I'm not going to be held accountable.
Okay.
So he's also the lead pastor. So anyway, so hi, Jay.
Hi.
What is the NALC and what is our connection with it?
The NALC is the North American Lutheran Church. So we embody Canada as well. We have some churches in there. The NALC is folks that felt more confessionally based, and actually in 2009, after the ELCA, which is the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, after that decision they had a church-wide decision that had some ordination issues and those kind of things. So once that decision came, there were some folks who were theologically grounded in a slightly more conservative way, so to speak, biblically speaking, that they, for all intents and purposes, left the ELCA and created their this denomination that we call the North American Lutheran Church. I believe it was 2010 when it was officially, we had our own bishop and those kind of things. So that's the timeline that we gave. So from 2010 on, they were expecting roughly 150 churches that felt the same way theologically that they did to leave. And we have now grown to nearly 500 churches. We're embracing churches in Ethiopia, the Oromo Church that we are partnering with in mission. And they are actually starting the mission to us. They're becoming missionaries, but there's an Oromo congregation in every state. Some are growing they're growing at a rapid pace because it's a lifestyle as opposed to just the kind of approach that we take to Christianity and the Western culture, which is that consumerism. If I don't like what's going on at this church, I'll leave that one and go to that. This is an immersion-based lifestyle for them. So that's kind of encouraging because it's starting to filter over into our own denomination as a lifestyle piece. And so a lot of that is also, I think, to help drive the NALC to what we will get talking about is the discipleship piece, which is at the core of being a follower of Christ, as it being a disciple. So the NALC came from that, and when somebody asked me, and it's maybe irreverent, but I'm going to say it anyway, if the ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and the Missouri Synod Church LCMS, Lutheran Church of Missouri Synod, who is very conservative and strict, if those two had a love baby, that would be the NALC. All right. Sorry for the irreverence, but you get the kind of where they're in
makes
between.
The point, right?
Right. We're still confessionally based, like Missouri Synod. We're still, with the ordination of women and that kind of pieces, we still lift up from the ELCA and a lot of those kind of justice and peace kind of pieces. So that's a combination of the two of them. And so, again, we do what we did, and you got to own it. It is what it is. We did what a lot of other churches and denominations have done. We didn't like something that was going on, so we created our own. That is why we have over 10,000 different denominations in our country right now, because we are a very individually, we want what we want, and that's kind of our culture right now. So, again, you have to understand what the NALC is, how it got here, but we're very confessionally based. We actually have 4 core values that we do subscribe to, we use, and they're very a way to keep us grounded, so to speak. The core values are we're Christ-centered, first and foremost, okay? We are mission-driven, so that means we love the people in our... Oh, sorry.
We're going to start a game. It's called How Many Times Does Pastor Jay Hit the Mic? And whoever gets it right, I'm going to have a prize.
Your other option is me sitting on my hands and talking like this. So we're also mission-driven, which means we not only take care of people in the pews, but we go out beyond. And we understand that our mission is to save souls. I mean, that's why we're here. We are here to bring the gospel to other people and not just keep it to ourselves. Traditionally grounded, which means we lift up the traditions that we've had in the Lutheran Church for so many years. All of the feasts, all of the, the ebbs and the flows. We just, in the first part of November, we had an All Saints Sunday. We have Reformation Sundays. So we still follow the liturgical calendar. We're very traditionally grounded from that standpoint. And we're congregationally focused, which means the congregations hold the power, I guess, if you will, the autonomy to do. They're not dictated by bishops or those kind of things. We have a presiding bishop, and we have what are called deans in our areas, but they're more pastoral providers, shepherds, so to speak.
They're there to support the congregation.
They're there to support, the congregation, which hopefully you heard from when you went to our convocation.
Our convocation. I did pay attention to
something. I know. So they are in support roles as opposed to what some other denominations use as the top down. We are going from the bottom up. So, I mean, it's another way for us to express who we are as Lutherans. It's yet another denomination. We are just a society that fractures at rapid paces, and at some point you find something that works for you until you don't, and then you start something else. Again, it's not necessarily an indictment, but it's how the ALCA came from two denominations that came back together, the LCA and the ALC in '88. That's rare. Rarely do we unify. We end up fracturing. So that's how we got our route. Now, what we do with that going forward is what we're really excited about, because we really are excited about the mission, the focus. Our current bishop, John Brodowski, is all about discipleship and what that looks like in the 21st century moving forward. And it's a key part of who we are as an NALC. His statement last year in Nashville when we went to the church-wide convocation, when people think of the NALC, he wants the second thing to come from that is discipleship. I mean, when people think of the NLC, he wants us to think of as to be the discipleship group, not disciples of Christ, because that's also a denomination, but we make disciples first and foremost.
And you've given us a great, perfect segue, and I'm not going to take it because I want to say something else first before we do that. I want to lift up something that you said.
Okay.
2 weeks ago in our last episode, I gave you a hard time a little bit. People might not have realized I was giving you a hard time about specifically your Reformation Day sermon.
Correct.
But I did. And so I'm going to lift up something in that sermon now that ties into something that you were just saying. One of the first things you said in that sermon that I think was very, very powerful was, yes, we're Lutheran, but we're Christians first.
Correct.
And so I think that's something else for us all to remember when you look at all the divisions and the denominations is, yes, this is, how, like you said, this is how it happened. This is where we're at, but we're Christians first.
Right.
And so you always put Christ first. So anyway, sorry, I just waned to lift that
up.
No,
I said that. I should own it.
Kudos. Yes. That was a good one.
Yeah.
The other one, we won't mention again.
Okay.
But let's get into that. We were talking about that, our denomination, whatever, the NALC wants to be thought of as discipleship is be the next thing that comes out. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. We did an episode back in October about discipleship, but that was really more focused on what we do here as far as a discipleship team at Trinity. Right. And I mentioned to you before we got on the air that my concern when we do something like that, exclusively only do something like that, is that people might walk away and the impression almost comes off like a checklist. Discipleship, in order to do discipleship, you do X, you do Y, you do Z, blah, 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 blah.
Correct.
And I know you've preached on something like this, things like this similar before, about not trying to think of some of these things as, check the box kind of situations. Right. So to get out of that for a minute, let's just talk, what is discipleship? What does that mean?
Teaching and being taught. Discipleship, again, it's you hear me use the words contextual. So it's relationship based, different people. There's not like I said, there's not a checklist to being a disciple. Jesus called his disciples based on their gifts, but they, again, they were fishermen, they were tax. There was a multitude of people, much like a congregation has a multitude of gifts throughout that. But what he did is he walked with them. He talked with them. I know I sound like a hymn, right? He walked with me. He talked with me.
Walked with me and he talked with me.
But he taught. And the only difference that discipleship in our terms is what Jesus did as a disciple, is we are also called to be taught and be walked with and be discipled as well, to be held accountable. There are pieces of discipleship. There's a lot of discipleship groups out there. The Navigators is one that will help lead you in how to disciple your church and how to be part of that. There's coaching involved. I've been part of some coaching things because there are some ways that you can take your discipleship deeper if you really want to go. But the biggest thing is, in 21st century discipleship, what really is the changer is the authenticity, the authentic piece of being a disciple of Christ is the one where you're truly opening up to each other. You're praying with each other. You're allowing yourselves to be vulnerable to each other. And that's what we have a hard time in society of doing. We've been pushed toward be strong, 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 strong. Don't be weak. I mean, you know where I'm going with that. So, and it's not that discipleship is weak. It's admitting and lifting up and wrestling with those pieces where you weren't good, or you did struggle, or you made some bad choices. Whatever it is, you have to kind of own up to those things. It's kind of it's a bigger confession and forgiveness kind of piece that we do every Sunday in our worship, but it's one-on-one usually with that part. And so it's all it is to go deeper, to dig into your faith more, and feel comfortable. And you're always looking for somebody else that you can walk with, no matter how they are.
So being taught and being willing to be taught doesn't just mean sitting in the pew listening to a sermon and learning what this passage means and that passage means.
That's part of it,
right?
Because that's the big picture we also can learn from too. But it's going further than that. It's
going deeper.
Yes,
it's more of a
lifestyle.
connection.
It's a lifestyle piece.
Yeah.
Again, the buzzword right now is lifestyle. Discipleship is not a checklist. It is not a ministry team. It is, but it's not. It is a lifestyle. A discipleship lifestyle truly puts the heart of God first and foremost. It allows you to look at all of your stewardship aspects. And again, if we refresh from what we did a few weeks ago, stewardship is that simple using everything that we have that's been given to us by God, knowing that it's been given to us for God's glory. And so discipleship is a big piece of that, allowing yourself to see all of those pieces that are given to you by God that you can use, and when you possibly maybe use something incorrectly, or you're using it, somebody else walking alongside saying, yeah, that was wrong, and owning it. It's a very unique thing for our 21st century society, because it's a society that's not based on vulnerability. It's a society that's only based on power. And so it's a complete change of when we talk about Jesus being countercultural, which we talk a lot about, discipleship is countercultural. Because it also takes some time. It takes some intentionality and those kind of things, and that's something we don't have readily available in our world either.
It makes me think of, you mentioned Jesus is countercultural, and I look back on it and say, yeah, if you look at, what Jesus wants us to do is counter to our culture. We're living in a culture 2,000 years after he was here on earth teaching, and he was countercultural back then.
He was, absolutely.
And doesn't that, I don't know, maybe I'm getting too theological here, but that seems to say something about the human condition and our sinful, fallen human condition, that even 2,000 years later, I don't think in that entire 2,000 years there's ever been a culture that's been perfectly lined up with what, I mean, you could look at any culture over that 2,000-year span and say Jesus was countercultural.
Yep.
So, but let's, specifically speaking of our culture now, our 21st century culture, you mentioned that we're in a very power-hungry or power-driven culture. I think the problem gets even deeper in the sense that, I mean, you look at the advent of social media, people, interact in that type of format, and that's not a real, you don't make a personal connection on social media. And so we have this means of communication, and the way we communicate has been changing.
Right.
And it almost seems to be counterproductive towards making these personal connections that you need in order to have that good discipleship relationship. So how do we as a church address that? I mean, how do we encourage people to be willing to open up to make those personal connections?
Well, I think first you have to admit that social media is there. It's here to stay for a while. So how do we, react to that? I don't think we understand the pervasiveness of social media out there. It has changed relationships. It has also had some benefits. It's connected us. I love keeping up with all my college friends and folks I grew up with. I mean, it's great to be kind of a part of their lives, but understanding that most of what's all on Facebook is only the best parts of their life too. So
Pollyannaism,
which we love. Yeah, we don't talk about that, as much as we probably should. But it's here. I mean, so this is where we're at. It is very pervasive, and it's a part of that. So we can either get on board or get out. We can, embrace this and use it as we're doing now in social media ways to connect with people, or we can just pretend it doesn't exist and we go on doing what we're doing. But what we have to understand from a discipleship standpoint is that it is very personal. It is one-on-one. It is not hiding behind a screen or behind your phone or those kind of things. You have to actually talk to people, look at people in the eye, walk with them, grieve with them, be happy with them, every range of emotion that comes along with that, and you do it together in the name of Christ. You can do discipleship groups; those are okay to do too. Not like AA meetings, but in some ways similar because you're lifting each other up. You are, you're walking with each other, you're supporting all those kind of things in the name of Christ. So it's not, like I said, there's not a set way to do discipleship, which I think is the challenge, but it's also the freeing part because you can let it guide you in your own relationships, whatever those look like.
Well, I don't think there can be a set way because if the culture's changing, then you've got to be willing to change, and because there's going to be different things you have to do in order to reach people in different times and different settings. So, one of my biggest struggles, and I'll just be honest with you, people see. My daughter's the same way. My daughter recently did a video for we showed it last episode 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
We showed it the $100,000 pyramid stewardship thing, and we had somebody comment afterwards who knows her outside of the on-camera setting, who knows that she's very introverted, and so am I. People, I mean, once I get to know you, then then we're like this, but you put me in a social setting and I'm the one that's hanging out in the corner of the party. I'm not walking up to people and, introducing myself. That's just not who I am. And so for some people, and we have a hard time, not just opening up, but even knowing how to respond if someone wants to come to me and make that kind of connection. If I don't feel like I know you real well already, then I have a hard time in that situation. And so I'm very sympathetic to, maybe I'm a product of the 21st century culture, I don't know, but I'm very sympathetic to building those relationships. And I just don't know what to tell people.
Well, now you have to, a lot of it's trust-based. And that's one thing we struggle with as a society, too. We don't know who to trust. More than likely, we've been burned many times on trust. We've told somebody something in confidence, and next thing you know, it's out there. So what comes with discipleship and what we don't talk about a lot of is that level of trust and that level of security where you're comfortable enough to be able to share with somebody. A lot of our own spousal relationships don't even accompany that kind of trust level. And we just, again, with that part, we are a distrusting kind of people too. we're being fed a lot of things that are distrustful. I mean, and eventually over time you keep getting fed all of that. It becomes part of who you are. So our society in general is very distrusting. And so discipleship, again, is countercultural when it comes to that, because you have to trust the person or people that you are walking with, and they have to trust you. And so there is a level there that some people will be uncomfortable with and opening up, because they're always afraid that you're going to say something and open up to someone that they're going to have a heart, someone's going to say something. And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but you got to trust that, that is there first.
But it's got to be, we've got to take it seriously, and we got to take the commitment seriously, because I can't tell you how many people that have been burned by Christians. Mm-hmm. And like it or not, fair or not, when that happens, they're going to hold it against Jesus. Mm-hmm. They're going to hold it against Christianity, because they'll say, well, if that's what Jesus does, then,
then why would I be a Christian?
Yeah, exactly.
Why? Exactly.
And we are his ambassadors, and we got to take that obligation seriously. Right. So, anything else we haven't touched on?
No. So, the NALC has a life-to-life discipleship program that we're still formulating and moving together. There are certain people in each key region that have been trained and that kind of thing to help move them into congregations. Personally, I'm all in on this. I believe that discipleship is where we're heading. And so as we get to know each other, and as my time here continues on, we'll push discipleship a little bit further inward. But in order to make anything successful, it's much like stewardship, right? You have to buy into what you're doing. You have to believe what it is. And so if we're not modeling that behavior as a leadership staff or as myself, from the top down in the church piece, then it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to be all talk, and then they can just watch the show whenever they want. But I think in order for us to model it, we have to, be able to do it and practice it and see what works, and lift up those stories of faith, to keep the faith out in front of people, again, humbly, but let them know that, good can overcome evil. And we do that by sharing the good with everyone, because there's enough evil out there that we just, is in our face every day. So discipleship will be a very intentional way to continue to develop relationships, to go deeper in Christ, and to be, it's amazing what happens when you start going deeper. We've got enough shallow Christians out there right now. We want to be a movement and a church and a denomination that goes deep. And not everybody's going to be on board. We have to accept that. You're always going to have those break glass in case of emergency Christians. And we want to honor that. We want to lift those up too, because there's a seed of faith there that for whatever reason they don't want to go deeper, or they've been burned, or I don't know what the circumstances are, but we need to be able to walk with them too.
And none of us know the circumstances somebody else has been walking through, and but that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. It's like when we see those people who just show up for Easter or Christmas, if you tease them, if you ridicule them, if you throw guilt at them, why on earth would you expect them to come back?
Exactly.
Why would you expect them to come back?
Right.
How about instead listening to them, discipling them, walking alongside with them, and find out what's going on?
And sometimes the innocent, hey, welcome back, glad to see you, because they have their own guilt for not coming. Right. That's just, so what do you do? Not say anything to them? Hey, wave.
What was your name again?
No. Yeah. And it's tricky, but if it's genuine, it's authentic, most people can see that, we truly miss them. And so, the biggest mission field out there right now is not the unchurched, but the recently churched. Mm-hmm. I mean, they know about faith, and for whatever reason, their church cut them off, or their church did something, and we just haven't reached back out to them. And we all know somebody that hasn't been to church, and we can reach out to. And that's the first start. You don't even have to worry about finding somebody that's never heard of Jesus. Go out and find the ones that already know about Jesus, but find out what happened and why. So it's that again, church is messy. I'll say that till the day I die. Churches are messy. Because it's filled with a bunch of messy people, a bunch of hypocrites, a bunch of just people that need Jesus. So that's kind of who we are and where we are, and we're all riding in the same boat, I guess. That was bad, but whatever.
We got it. We understood what you meant.
Okay,
it was heartfelt. Good. So hey, if you're one of those messy people out there like the rest of us, and you're looking for a group of fellow messy people to work through all the stuff. And if what we're talking
Come
about here,
on in.
come on down.
God's moving around here.
God's moving here. We got some exciting things coming up, and this sounds like something that you want to be part of. You can come join us, please. 1100 Philadelphia Road in Joplin, Maryland. 5:07 on Saturdays are kind of a more contemporary, casual service. 9:27 Sunday mornings is our traditional, and then 11 o'clock a.m. on Sunday mornings as well. Come on down, join us. We'd love to meet you. Love to walk through and help you in your discipleship journey as well. So, thank you, Pastor Jay.
My pleasure.
And I'm going to give you a break now, okay? You've been on for the entire month of November. I think you've deserved a break. You've earned a break.
Yeah. Yeah, just in time for Christmas. Yay. 4 services Christmas Eve, 2:30, 4:30, 7:30, 10:30. You can find one there. And then we have the Christmas pageant going on Saturday evening, and
don't forget the Advent, the Wednesday Advent
and
services.
the Wednesday
too.
Advent services, and
you got nothing to do with Christmas
I got
time.
nothing to do. Yeah,
Nah,
I'd love to do a few more episodes in December.
We'll give them December off. Hey, speaking of December, before I give my usual spiel, we do have some exciting things coming up in December. Where December, our ministry team focuses on our music ministry, and so we've got 3 episodes because again, that week, Christmas, New Year's, I'm taking that week off, but 3 episodes in Christmas. All 3 are going to focus on our music ministry. We're going to have one in there where we're going to be talking a little bit, kind of like we always do, sit down and talk about music ministry. But then you can't have episodes about music ministry without music. So we got some fun ones coming up. Yeah. I'm going to hold that kind of close to the vest and make you tune in to see what we got coming up. Hey, if you did like this episode, do me a favor. Go ahead and click the like button. That's a thumbs up button right here on the YouTube page. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this video. Share all our videos. You can check them all out on the Trinity Joppa channel. Get caught up. There's only about 70 or so of these. Won't take you that long. Give a like to our Facebook page. It's the Trinity Joppa channel Facebook page. We post, give us feedback about what kind of episodes you'd like to see in the future. I'm going to wrap it up because I've been talking long enough. So thank you very much again for the whole month. It's been wonderful.
It's been fun.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. See you in Advent here. We're coming up. God bless.
In your word we will follow.
Hey, if you haven't joined our Patreon yet, would you mind giving it your prayerful consideration? Patreon is a way you can support the Trinity Joppa YouTube channel. We've got multiple tiers to choose from, starting as low as $2 per month. Visit www.patreon.com/TrinityJoppa for all the details. Thank you. God bless.